Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Greg Tavine. I serve on the team at Emerging Prairie. We exist to connect and celebrate the entrepreneurial ecosystem. Today's a really special day. We're going to have an opportunity to hear from our governor, share about activities and innovation around the state and right here in Fargo. We're going to learn about a very exciting acquisition and new opportunities for our community that I think are going to make a really, really big impact. So to kick things off, it's my honor to introduce our governor, originally from Arthur, North Dakota, an NDSU graduate, somebody that believes in innovation, who has built large companies, and who believes in giving every North Dakotan an opportunity to solve problems, take risks, and be an entrepreneur. Join me in welcoming the state of North Dakota's governor, Doug Burgum.
Thank you, Greg. That was great, fantastic, great to be here in a room full of entrepreneurs and innovators back here on the NDSU campus. And I know there was a really special announcement, but it's also holidays, and holidays are about family. So the first announcement I want to make is that just before I walked up the podium, my daughter Jessie came back from LA. So there she is, right there. I got to give her a hug. I wanted to spend more time with her, but then I had to come up here and do this. But anyway, glad you're home for the holidays. Okay, would love to get right into it today, because this is such an exciting day. These are the fun days for North Dakota, and I want to share my gratitude with everyone who's in attendance today, and I want to thank NDSU for hosting us and all the great work that NDSU is doing around entrepreneurship and innovation. Here. It's great to be back here. We were here actually in the same spot in March when we were here with NDSU officials announcing the creation of the Robert and Sheila Challey Institute for Global Innovation and Growth, which, as the name implies, is focused on innovation, trade, economic growth, and those are all topics why we're here today. And of course, I'm especially thankful. I wouldn't be here, and you're going to hear more about these later, but longtime Fargo entrepreneurs, Ron and Mary Alice Bergen, and those of you who might remember, Ron and Mary Alice spent 42 years as the owners of Fargo Assembly. We're going to hear more about them later today, shortly, but they're the reason we're here. But let's, right off the bat, just say thanks to Ron and Mary Alice, because you're the reason we're here today. The announcement that we're making today is that there's a world leader in 3D printing, and that company is called LulzBot, and as you probably see that on all the logos up here. But LulzBot is going to be relocated, their entire operation, to Fargo after Ron and Mary Alice acquired the company last month. And this is really exciting news for the entire region, because we've got a business with cutting edge technology. They're going to have dozens and dozens of jobs that are going to be opened here in Fargo, and we're just so grateful to have these tremendous entrepreneurs continuing to believe in North Dakota. And I understand that, as we say, I think it says right up here, jobs. People are already applying online. I think Ron mentioned that they had their first applicant. It was a woman from Texas applying for a job in North Dakota. I think that's a really good trend line to see that we have people moving up here to North Dakota. But we know this is a great place for jobs. And it was just, as you maybe saw yesterday, ZipRecruiter named Fargo, North Dakota, #1 of all the communities in the nation for the hottest job market in the nation. So way to go. That only happens when we've got great collaboration between city leaders, as Mayor Mahoney is here, and I hope that's not your flood gear that you got on with the bright yellow there, but we're getting ready. We're already having those meetings, getting ready, but we would say it takes great city leaders, it takes great entrepreneurs, it takes great universities, it takes a great business community, everybody working together. We've got the combination of all of those here in Fargo, Moorhead, Cass Clay, and it's a great place to grow businesses, as many as you know, and as I had the great opportunity to do as well. This was a Colorado-based company. It had 113 employees. With this transition, there's going to be 13 of the original employees are moving here to Fargo, and the plan is to add at least 50 more as soon as possible across light assembly, customer service, support, and other position. Training will be offered, and Ron and Mary Alice say that they hope to grow this business well beyond its peak size in Colorado, which is absolutely great great news. The name of the company, which is I think is going to be fantastic. The product name is LulzBot. The company name is going to be Fargo Additive Manufacturing Equipment. And let me break that down for you. Additive manufacturing is the umbrella name for the 3D printing industry, because it really isn't about printing, it really is about manufacturing, and there's a tremendous amount of value that gets added. We're going to talk about that. But if you, Fargo Additive Manufacturing 3D is Fame 3D, and I think they're going to have a very famous 3D printing company here, manufacturing the core products that are going to help spur a whole industry. 3D printing maybe is misunderstood right now, or maybe people think it's a novelty, or maybe they've seen one in a junior high science class, and you can use some plastics to print a small object, and it's kind of amazing, and we watch the printer go back and forth, and we go, wow, that's cool. But let's just talk a little bit about some of the things that are really driving this industry forward. First of all is material science. When we think about 3D printing today, people might think about plastics, but there's this industry is driving advanced thinking across ceramics, across alloys, across metals, across advanced, super strong, super lightweight plastics. This is going to affect every industry. It's going to affect aviation, it's going to affect transportation, it's going to affect medical devices. People are working on being able to print, 3D print, custom for you, implantable, not just like orthotics like we're doing today on the outside of your body, but in things that you could plant inside of yourself. And so this is just absolutely exploding on material science. And of course, we need more research on that. Universities are in the position to do that. Things that are changing every industry, every job in every industry, of course, is just the massive amount of digital computing power that's out there. I saw just recently this week some of the latest transistors that are coming out. And of course, this group's all familiar with Moore's Law. You double the amount of power and cut the price on a transistor. That's the underlying factor that drives technology forward at rates faster than humans can comprehend, because when you double and double, it's 2 to 4 to 8 to 16 to 32 to 64 to 128, and then it pretty soon gets to numbers that 256 and 512, and you can't keep up with it. You just go, the line starts going straight up. Well, that's what's happening right now. Just in the last 4 years, the number of transistors on a single microchip have reached almost right now 20 billion transistors on a single microchip. And that's 20 billion transistors who can go 0 or 1 and can make an intelligent decision. 20 billion on one little chip. And you think, well, that's a big number. Well, what was it? It wasn't even up to 1 billion in the year 2000. So in one generation, it's gone up by 20x from 4 years ago or 5 years ago. It's almost tripled, and then that is going to keep going and going. So what happens when you have all of that power on those transistors for software design, for AI, for machine learning? There's so many things that are going to be able to make 3D printers better, smarter, faster, working with more materials. So you combine the material science advances with this computing power that's driving that. That if you think you understand 3D printing because you saw one of these 2 or 3 or 4 years ago, you're not understanding how this is going to change everything. How will it change everything? Today, manufacturing occurs in large manufacturing locations where the supply chain brings in lots of complex parts and then people assemble them. Well, what can happen with 3D geometrically? With 3D printing, you can take complexity and essentially geometric complexity and reduce it by orders and orders of magnitude. LulzBot already has customers using their products where they've taken a manufacturing thing that might have 855 components, and then you start printing those components geometrically, it gets down to 12 components from 855. So the complexity goes away, and then the manufacturing complexity also goes away, and so then it takes less time and energy with less maintenance to be able to assemble super complex things, because you're able to design things that literally the only limitation is your imagination, because if you can imagine it, if you can create it and put it into the CAD, you can create that. So this is, today, simple applications going on today with LulzBots, everything from NASA using using it to build super strong parts. The U.S. Marines have used it, in the field to replace door handles for Humvees, and that's a great example because, again, manufacturing today often has to occur in large plants under very constrained conditions. Sometimes humidity, temperature, airflow, dust, all those things can affect a manufacturing outcome. We all know that. But when you have the micronization of manufacturing, if a single 3D printer can now create highly complex parts, you don't need the large manufacturing locations, particularly if they can do that in an enclosed place. So this micro manufacturing is going to completely change the supply chain and completely change the way manufacturing is done and how supply chain happens. Why would we worry about building something in one place and have shipping costs when we can just build it right there? So that changes everything about transportation. So maybe I've said it 3 times, I'll keep saying it. What's happening and with this business that's coming to North Dakota is going to be at the center of a set of technologies around material science and digital computing that will change everything. It'll change how we think about even the very core of manufacturing. So if that's not exciting, I don't know what be. I mean, this is like, to me, this is exciting as it gets because this opens up a universe of possibilities and the opportunity for us to take what's going to be going on here in this manufacturing facility, combine that with education, K-12, higher ed, and help our state understand and be at the front end of that. That touches every industry we're already in. It'll affect agriculture, ag manufacturing. It'll affect everything we're doing in aerospace and UAS. It will certainly affect the energy industry. And so this is absolutely incredible. The other thing that I want to just say too, which is of course Ron and Mary Ellis with their incredible work that they've done as entrepreneurs, is they're also fantastic employers. These guys have had so much success in what they've been doing in the past. They had a company that they had here in Fargo. It grew to 800 employees. They were doing wire harnesses for some of the nation's leading brands, including Harley Davidson and every ag equipment manufacturer brand that you can think of around here, and for Bobcat. But by the time they sold this company in 2015, they had 2,000 employees in more than a dozen plants around the country and the world. So they're just absolutely fantastic A-plus employers, and they've done so much good for our community, because one of the great gifts you can give to a community is creating a great job, and that's what Ron and Mary Alice have done for 42 years, and they're back at it again, which is again great news. One of the other things that's also interesting and exciting, the location they're going to be in is what used to be called the industrial park before we created the new one west of the interstate. But in the original industrial park, there was a building there that was owned by Vanity. It was their headquarters, warehouse, and distribution, and so they're going to be repurposing an existing building. And of course that building is located in one of the 25 opportunity zones in North Dakota that our office had the opportunity to designate rural areas, tribal areas, economically depressed area. There was a set of criteria that we got from the federal government in terms of what could be designated as an opportunity zone, and it had to do with low income and low employment. So that's how those 25 were picked. They touch every corner of the state, but this is in one of those, and Ron is still exploring whether to participate in that program, but we want to say, give a shout out to opportunity zones in particular, because this can help attract similar investments in other communities. This is soon to be a North Dakota company, and it's always fun to see North Dakota products highlighted on a national stage. And LulzBot was recently featured on Good Morning America as one of the 3 best 3D printers in the world. LulzBot they were given an opportunity, given an award to outstanding STEM teacher, science, technology, engineering, arts, and math. We include the A in North Dakota. It's not just STEM, it's STEAM, because the creativity is certainly part of it. Certainly when it comes to 3D printing, creativity is key to that. And so we know that there's going to be an opportunity for tie-in with education here at all levels in North Dakota, but let's take a look at that clip right up here from Good Morning America.
You know it's the holiday season, so we couldn't just come to Abingdon Elementary and not celebrate a teacher and the leader of STEAM here. This is Jordan Kivitz. Listen, you've done so much great work that we've got a little something special for you too, right, Gabe?
Yes, we have an incredible 3D printer here just for you.
How sweet is that? Look at this. Do you love it? How's it feel?
It feels amazing. I mean, these things are totally required. If we're going to solve 21st century problems, we got to have 21st century resources. And this.
Very fun. And especially fun to see that going to Rosie's Riveters, which was an all-girls tech team, and so that's important work as well. I want to, again, as I conclude my remarks and invite Ron up here to say a few words. Just want to say a couple things about him personally. Ron grew up like a lot of people did in Class B towns in rural North Dakota, Dunn Center, North Dakota, and of course then he went on from there to earn a degree from an incredible institution, bachelor's degree in animal science, master's in ag economics from North Dakota State University, and then along the way he and Mary Alice got together. She's a Concordia grad. So we had a great cross the river combination here between two great institutions. But as I said, between the two of them, they did an incredible job building their company over the last 42 years. But retirement is not a word that either one of them know or understand. They're entrepreneurs. And when we think about the values of entrepreneurs, we talk about 4 values. And I think the two of them, Ron and Mary Alice, hold these values as deeply as anyone I know. And the first is curiosity. I've never been in a meeting with Ron in my entire life when he hasn't asked at least a half a dozen really good penetrating questions. Questions that make you think, questions that really get to the why of things or the why not, because like a good entrepreneur, he's also a dreamer and he's driven by that curiosity. The second thing is the humility. The two of these people, I mean, I don't think we have a more humble couple in relative to success. This could be the pinnacle of humility. If you looked up humility, both of them should have their picture next to it, because I don't think anyone ever does or will understand the level of what they've done, nor in their expression of their success, back to their community, the gratitude they've shown back to people and institutions they've supported. The third one is courage. And of course, people think it's easy to be an entrepreneur, but if you haven't been one, or you don't know one or haven't lived with one, understand it takes enormous amounts of courage to take risk-taking. And sometimes we think of entrepreneurs as, someone who's got nothing to lose and they're right out of college, and sort of why not? If it fails, they can go back and get a job. We're talking about people at the pinnacle of their business careers, jumping in and doing a really impressive, challenging, difficult startup, and I'm telling you, they're going to make it look easy because they're just that good, but it takes courage to do that. And then the last thing, so curiosity, humility, courage, but the last one is gratitude. And as I said, they have expressed their gratitude quietly and silently to all the people around them, the institutions they've worked with. They've done that for decades. We'll never know the extent of it, but trust me, these are people that really understand how to give back to a community. So it's with incredible honor to be here today to introduce one of North Dakota's great entrepreneurs, at it one more time, doing something that's really important to the future of our state in terms of the technology they're bringing. But let's give it up for Ron and Mary Alice Bergen right now.
It's awful hard to follow the governor, and I'm not used to speaking. That's not one of my strong suits. But I'd like to say thanks to the governor for being here and all those nice words. Thanks to the press for showing up here to tell our story. Thanks to NDSU for hosting us. I've been involved with NDSU since coming to Fargo to go to school, mostly involved from the athletic department, watching the Bison. And say thanks to Mary Alice for putting up with all this. And thanks to all our former employees at Fargo Assembly, which we really appreciated. 3 of them moved on and had different jobs. Currently are not at Fargo Assembly, but they are going to join us. One is Joan Bowman over here. Joan, stand up. She's going to be Vice President human resources and the financial. And then we have Tim Pagel, he's going to be supply chain manager, and Sarah Ellers, who's going to be in the customer service and sales manager. They were great employees, and I'm really happy that they're coming back to be part of the team. Need great leaders. Now, Doug didn't have the story quite right. We have to straighten a couple things out. I didn't intend to get back in the manufacturing business or any business. When we sold the company and they didn't want us around anymore, I said, well, haven't I been thinking about what am I going to do after I retire? Said, well, I'm going to invest in and mentor young entrepreneurs. And that's what it says on my business card. Well, a month or two ago, I get a call from this young guy. He was a former farmhouse alum, like I am. And he said he'd been at tailgating with Rick Burke and asked Rick who might be interested in investing in something. So this is what happened. When I probably wouldn't even talk to him, but because we use these printers at Fargo Assembly, I think we had 9 of them running, and we ran them hard all the time. When the busiest time of the year, we were actually printing 21 hours a day on them. And we used them at other facilities besides North Dakota. And so I was very familiar, and the things they could do, we just kept finding new things to help us, and in a few cases, make products for our customers. So I was familiar with the company. I think like I heard Doug say maybe, way back when he was starting his business and we were starting ours roughly in the same type of time, you know, that everybody was going to have a computer in their house. I never believed that everybody would have a computer in their home, but for years I've been saying that everybody's going to have a 3D printer in their home. And if you talk to most of the kids, you'll see why. The kids just love them. Okay, but they're kind of going away from the everyday usage. Today, as Doug said, they're becoming, they're being used in so many more areas. Our own company, building the 3D printers, we run a print farm of 155 different printers, printing parts for our printers. Now, they make about 10,000 a year in the last 2 years. This year it's down because it's been closed a little bit. The year isn't quite over yet. They make a lot of parts. And I remember when we got our first 3D printer at Fargo Assembly, the first thing Bob did was print out all the spare parts, all the parts he could print, because we only had one printer. If it went down, he was thinking ahead. We'll be down. So printed out the spare parts. So it was the young entrepreneurs that convinced me to invest. We're not looking at it that we're going to work every day. The young people have to run this. We're giving some good assistance to help them. but it's time for us to retire. So, but manufacturing is a lot of fun. So it's kind of hard to get away from too. So they're produce 3 different products right today. That's what you see here. But they've been working on some new ones. And the one that's through alpha testing and into beta testing right now, they're calling the bioprinter. And if you happen to look in the Time magazine 2-3 weeks ago, they showed hearts that were printed by the bioprinter, not ours. I'm pretty sure they didn't use ours. But I think ours could print the heart. It takes the material, just like you see the material here. It takes whatever material you give it, and then it prints it. Well, they demonstrated for us when we went out to see the company, printing out veins for a human. Now, they're not at the level to go into a body yet, but for research. Well, so what did the Time magazine say? That these hearts, the surgeons were able to take and examine the heart. They get a better picture with using the 3D printers, and it's better detail, and probably feeling it and everything helps them too. So in some cases they decided they didn't have to do surgery. They did this before they were planning surgery. They found they could treat it with medication, or they found less invasive methods of surgery. So they found it was a big help, and it's being tested to print skin, to print irises for eyes, all different kinds of things with a bioprinter. And you take the other end of the spectrum, they have 3D printers that print houses. Now, we're not getting into that at all, but they print it with concrete. And I've seen the video of them printing it, and they can print it, leaving the raceways to run the wires through, and an outlet box so wires can come out, or put your plumbing pipe in. They're another kind of interesting thing. It's only been a little over a month. We've been involved, and we've been very busy, so I don't know how we ended up talking to a few friends, but I know 2 of them mentioned that, well, I've been thinking of using, one of them said, I've been thinking of using a 3D printer to print these parts that I want to sell. They should be made on an injection molding machine, but it costs tens of thousands of dollars a lot of times for the die to make it. And if you don't get the design right, then you're really in trouble if you're a young entrepreneur. Or in this case, he's an old entrepreneur, but with a 3D printer, print away. Material, you got all kinds of choices of material. There's new materials coming on all the time. The next printer that we have in development is called, it's a high heat printer. So it melt the filament at a much higher temperature. So the product, I assume, will be closer to steel or something, that it'll stand up a lot better. So you have these extremes from a bioprinter to something that, well, concrete house, I guess. Of course, nothing happens without people. We need people to build the printers, and We need people for customer service to talk to the people about which printer is better for their needs. We hope they say we want 10 printers, so that we help them figure out that when we can ship 10 printers to them, today or tomorrow, no. And technical support. A lot of people have trouble taking it out of the box and they don't read the instructions. And something very simple or normal maintenance that you'll have to do. No machine is without maintenance, I would say. So in our company we need maintenance, shipping and receiving, office help, pretty much the whole gamut that you need to run a manufacturing company. So we're hoping people will go to our website and apply or find us. So again, I want to thank everybody for coming. This should be interesting venture going forward. And so, thank you.
Okay, Ron, so in the spirit of our community, help us just hit us with the facts. How many new jobs are you going to have open in the next 6 months?
Well, depends on how fast Joan can get them trained and hired. We felt we would start with 50, that was a reasonable number to shoot for, that if we could hire about 50 new people, we could have a chance to get them trained in their positions. Hopefully some of them, shipping and receiving and maintenance, probably don't need much training. Assembly. This is light assembly like we did at Fargo Assembly, so we're very familiar with setting up processes, and they have processes for all of them in fairly good work instructions. So for training somebody new, they can look at it on the screen in front of them at their station. They can just punch it forward. And so if we get 50 trained in, then we're probably going to be just continuing to try to hire more people.
All right, and then two more, one more real quick. So the governor shared that it's a great industry. He said that you're a great employer. Would you believe the governor would be eligible for employment?
Of course.
All right, next question. What can all of us do? Ron, you and Mary Alice have been such advocates of entrepreneurs, young people, students. What can we do to help your team here at FAME get off the ground and running? If there's one thing that each and every one of us could do to help you reach your full potential, what would you want us to do?
Spread the word about jobs being available. And it's an interesting field to be in. Lots of people, well, in Colorado, every person that had a desk had a 3D printer on their desk. A lot of them, the employees, when there was printer returned or whatever and fixed and couldn't be resold, they sold them real cheap to their employees, and that was apparently everybody was really interested in getting a 3D printer. Oh, you might be interested in the cost. You'd think these would be.
Can folks buy them?
Of course. Mary Alice will take your orders. She's good at everything, so she's the order taker. This is called the Mini 2. It sells for about $1,500. Now, for all the things it'll do for $1,500, that's not bad. And the big one is about, depending on if it's Taz Workhorse or the Taz Pro, in the $5,000 range. So they're not for machines doing a lot of work. And you might also be interested, before we took the trip to Colorado to look at this company, I called our expert at Fargo Assembly that started using the first one, and I said, Bob, how many of those printers have you replaced? He said, none. And he said, we haven't hardly spent any money on fixing them. So, about 6 years. So they are really durable. And I think that's going to give us a real advantage, you know, like the bioprinter. The bioprinter is basically this printer with just a few modifications. It's not, it's like a color printing machine. You know, it prints whatever you put in it. Well, you got to put a different head on it to hold the your printing cells from your body. Oh, I said there was 2 people that said they were interested in 3D printing. The one lady is a pastor, and she had an idea, and she asked me, I think we should patent this idea. I said, no, that's not going to work to patent that. It's too expensive and everything, but you can copyright it. And I think there's a real chance that her idea could go nationwide, and she could sell, or however she sets up her business, it could use 1,000 or more printers, maybe much more. And it's just a simple thing, and the key to hers, it's personalizing. It's something that you would be emotional about, you would be, you would probably spend the money to have that personal deal. You do a scan and you print out all kinds of different things. So that's what she was going to do. She was going to scan and print. So.
All right, well, thank you, Ron. Thank you, Mary Alice. Thanks to all of you for being here. We want to give a couple shout-out. Thanks to LulzBot for helping us to produce NDSU's nice studio. If you have further questions for Ron or Mary Alice, they're going to be over here. And we did want to give a little gift to the governor, if that's all right. So we believe the governor is a graduate. He's a Dakota Knight. Is this correct? And so this is a 3D printed product made by these printers that can go through metal security. It is a holiday sword. So, Mr. Governor, here you go. Let's give it up for Ron and Mary.